Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now, a couple of weeks ago I did a review of the Fyne Audio F500 speakers and said that shortly we would actually be getting our own demonstrator pair of SP version, which is a sort of special version of it. Now they've actually arrived today, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an unboxing and then we'll talk through a few of the sort of differences between the standard version and the SP version, because there's quite a big difference in price. So let's sort of have a look at that and see how it's justifying the difference in price. So I'll set the camera up and we'll do the unboxing, and then we'll get the two set up and have a look at them. Okay, so you're going to get lots of pictures of my feet in this. Let's open the box. This is using a Stanley knife, which you must never use to open a speaker box, because bad things happen when you do this. But I tend to just put my finger along the blade like that, so we've just got a millimetre of blade showing. But I wouldn't do this. Just so don't complain in the comments. But, yeah, a friend of mine sort of made himself very unpopular as a manufacturer once for opening a pair of speakers that way. Right, that's the box open. Yeah, this range of SP models, the first one was a 501 SP, obviously based on the 501. And it sort of took the world by storm a little bit, really. It was totally unexpected. Instructions. I mean, I think Fyne was sort of looking at the fact that there was a 500 series and a 700 series, and there's quite a big void in between model-wise. So they've decided the whole SP concept is that it's sort of a midway point that uses some aspects of the 500, some aspects of the 700 to sort of create a sort of another range in a way. Just grab the camera and show what's going on in here. So we've got this in here. We've got little big grills, which I'll have a look at in a sec, and nice soft coverings. Well, I'm out of breath, I don't know. As you can see, the finish is just immaculate on these things. It is one big difference. I mean, all the SP versions are totally UK built. The standard F500s, well, the 500 series, are sort of British built drivers, but all the cabinetry is done in China, for purely cost reasons, really. But the whole point of the SP is it's totally UK built, and obviously the price implications with that. But there's a lot more going on. There is a lot more going on with these. So let's just reposition again while I get these out. Try across a bit. Okay, first speaker. There we go. Yeah, I think the cabinet is based on 500, but with a much higher grade finish. The drivers are, I think the bass unit is derived from the 700 series, whereas the treble unit is actually the same as the 700 series. So there's quite a lot going on there. Let's get the other one out. Just leave the back behind, I think. There you go. There we are. That finish is incredible on these, actually. It's a very sort of deep lacquer walnut on these. I've decided to go for the walnut because I've actually got the F500s are walnut too, but it's a totally different finish really to this. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll bring up the F500 standard and we'll have a look at the two and compare them. Okay, so we've got the 500 SP on the left and the standard 500 on the right hand side. On the face of it, it's kind of the same speaker with a much nicer finish. But there is a lot more going on when you look a bit more closely. In fact, I'd say there's very little that carries across, really. The closest sort of thing probably is the driver looks very similar, but it isn't. I mean, apart from the fact we've got a really highly polished chassis surround here, and on the standard it's like a brushed aluminium, so there's kind of subtle differences there. Treble is visually different. We've got the magnesium with a driver with a sort of flared, I think it looks like aluminium. I'm taking a wild guess at it. It's an aluminium sort of flare arrangement for the treble in the centre. The 500 has a titanium driver with a sort of plastic fluting arrangement on it that sort of focuses the treble. The driver generally use it on the SPs. They use the neodymium magnets, which are much more advanced than standard magnets. It's coming into higher end stuff quite a lot now. But yeah, that's quite a benefit. Much more accurate, much more linear response from the drivers really, and you hear that in the sort of imagery and the refinement of them and the dynamics and everything. Every aspect of the sound is improved by that. But even the cabinet, when you look at it, even the cabinet isn't actually quite the same. It's slightly deeper. There's about a good extra inch of depth there. 500, there's a lot of it is the sort of grill arrangement on the omnidirectional port and the big footplate there. I mean, just talking about the footplate, this is like MDF. These are sort of like almost like an acrylic grill that's on there. You don't have the grills and I think the acrylic feet under there as well that sort of separate. These I would guess is sort of, I shouldn't be guessing, I should know, some sort of alloy or aluminium. Bottom plate, I don't know actually. This feels like metal, but I don't know what sort of metal, whether it's aluminium again or some sort of alloy. But we've talked about the porting arrangement on the standard 500, which you can just about see inside. The downward firing port, and there's like a cone arrangement that directs the air in a linear way out of the grills at the side. When you actually look at it, there's a couple of components. It's sort of the base and the cone are a separate component, and there's a bit of a lip on it. You don't get that with the SPs. It's sort of almost hewn from the solid in a way. It's a much smoother cone and transition onto the base. I mean, it is a separate component, but it's a much flusher fit. So it's a much more accurate sort of base. I can't remember what they call it now. It's base tracks they call it, don't they? But it's much more accurate on this. I mean, the whole point of the base tracks. I mean, it's been done before. Downward firing ports onto a fixed platform. It helps you control the sort of port effect really. Open ports front and back, they do work, but they're very reliant on proximity to walls and things, and you can change the sound of the speaker radically just by the position of it. It's not as crucial with this sort of arrangement because it's a controlled distance, and because it sort of exits universally around the whole speaker, it has much less effect sort of positional wise. Like I say, it's a much smoother arrangement on the SPs than it is on the standard 500. So there's a benefit there as well, and like I say, better quality materials. And the actual cabinet itself, even though it looks the same, is a much denser material. There's a lot more damping internally as well, which makes a big difference. That cleans things up and makes them sound, literally cleaner and more dynamic and less coloration. What you don't want to do is a cabinet to be resonating of its own. When the driver resonates, it resonates the cabinet. That sort of transfers that energy back into the driver, and you get this sort of blurring effect. The more rigidity you have and damping you have, up to a point with damping, you can overdamp, but it all adds to the overall effect. So yeah, that's the two. Let's have a look at the back panel because there's things going on there too. Yeah, on the back, the main difference actually, I mean, it's obviously got the finish continues around the back, which some manufacturers don't bother with that. They sort of downgrade the finish on the back face because you don't see it, but sort of continued around. Same socketry, but, and if you remember your tannoys from years ago, there's a grounding post. So you can actually ground the driver chassis to earth if you want to. And apparently, I've never tried this, and I don't know why over the years. Apparently it does make quite a difference, sort of drains any sort of, possibly, this is me taking a wild guess at it, probably a build-up of static within the chassis. Anything that moves, I suppose, anything with magnetism in it's going to build up some sort of charge within itself, so grounding it down to earth theoretically should make a difference, and I'll report on that one. I'll have a go with that and just report, see what happens. Yeah, I think that's it really. I think that's the main thing. I think the other thing I've noticed, I'll rotate around, have a look from the other side, is the actual specific badge for the SP version's got the little logo underneath, sort of a much nicer little badge on there, whereas the It's that standard version. It's sort of within this little bit of trim here. So yeah, little subtle differences. So there you go. That's the standard 500 and the 500 SP. So what I'll be doing, I'll be having a proper listen to these and I'll report back on what my findings. But I've heard them before, and the SP versions are much better definition, much, like I said, bigger area sound really than the standard one. A lot less rough edges to the sound really. I think that's the main thing I've noticed between the two. So there you go. Yeah, hopefully that was interesting. Obviously, it's been quite an exciting time really. I think that's the SP. We've been waiting for quite a while. I'm quite looking forward to getting those properly out in the showroom really. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like. Yeah, the subscribers now is in the 2000s. It's it's really humbled by the response I get. Actually, it's quite nice. Yeah, I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much. You know what I forgot to do, don't you? I forgot to show you the grill. Now, the grill, just a plastic frame with a material over it. It's the same on both models, and basically little magnets on there, and that just clings on that end like that. So I must admit, I don't know of anybody who owns the Fyne Audios at all that actually uses the grills. I think they actually look quite good without, really. I think it's quite like that. Okay, I'm actually going now. See you in a future video. Thank you very much.